guys, it's Celeste.
And I'm Chill.
And this is Heavy Worship Nation. Tonight we are gathered here with the band Mothaltar. Woo! Hi, you guys. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. So excited to have you. If you guys can please introduce yourselves and what you play in the band.
Yeah, I guess I'll start. My name is Franco. I'm the vocalist. Now, I guess the original founding member of Mothaltar.
Ooh, nice to meet you.
Yeah, I'm Isaiah. I play guitar, and then yeah,
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Isaiah.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm Elijah. Are we telling people, Franco, what I play officially now? Because
Yeah,
I
this is a good time.
okay. Well, I
So
as of right now, I'm officially the drummer.
All
Uh,
right.
Ooh, nice.
I have played drums live with Mothaltar, but joined originally as the bass player. But I think
Oh,
between
cool.
I think between all of us, we're all intertwined as far as musicianship goes. So we can kind of dabble in other things, but yeah, you can look forward to seeing me play drums on everything from now on. So
Okay. So right
That
now
is
y'all
so
don't have a
cool.
bassist.
Yeah,
technically,
so right now we don't. Technically, we don't. And this isn't a low key thing because we love Aaron very much. So,
Hmm.
Aaron has stepped down from drums. He just got married, life changes, and he really wants to kind of expand what God's doing in the Oklahoma scene
Right.
because he lives in Oklahoma, we're out in Texas, and he's like, "Hey guys, I feel God's called me to do this here with this band, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
And what do you guys think?" And we're like, "Hey, if that's the Lord, then we send you off. We love you and bless you." And then, before that even happened, God sent us Elijah, which I think I mentioned to you a little bit before. He's like a vet in the scene, so we were thankful. His musicianship is absolutely crazy. It's annoying. He could be the vocalist if he wanted to, the guitarist, so whatever, all that stuff. So for now, we
Hey.
are a three piece. We will probably be looking to fill in other positions for live shows and kind of testing people out that way and then kind of wait. But as of right now, we're kind of fine tuned in a bit of a writing process. So
Hmm.
it'll be kind of us three as an official three piece for the time being.
and
That's
I'll
really
plug
cool.
Aaron a little bit just because I was talking to him earlier, and it's kind of fresh on the mind. If you want to check out what he's doing right now, he has his band Whom I Serve, so you can check
Mm.
them out pretty much everywhere that you can
Okay.
stream music. So
yep.
Cool. Thanks for sharing
Nice.
that.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And nice to meet you, Elijah. That is so cool. I did not know that you knew that many instruments and that you're just like this prodigy over here. I'm gonna
Yeah.
definitely pick your brain
Well,
more on
I wish
this.
I was young enough to be a prodigy, but I am the oldest in the band.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can't. So, before I get into it, I was listening to you guys' music and oh my gosh, it is so good. Like you guys just have to, oh, you guys have to hear it. So, when listening to this, I was like, okay, like what genre would I consider this as? And I was like, you know what?
Mhm.
I'm just gonna ask y'all myself. So, what genre do you put yourselves in?
I'd be curious to know what you call it. I'm
Isaiah, it's all you.
not in the
I
leader,
I
so
was
whatever.
it reminded me of like kind of like a deathcore or like metalcore-ish, like mixed.
Hmm. That's what I got to. A little heavier. And not quite deathcore, but a little bit heavier than metalcore too.
yeah, so I think that if you listen to the Prologue EP, I actually wasn't in the band during that. So the previous guitar player, Tim, I think he did a lot of the writing for it. He's a phenomenal guitar player. I talk to him every day. It's kind of funny because I, filled his spot, but um, he's very much a metalcore guitar player, and he's phenomenal at what he does. I think that from here out, as you probably heard, and we'll hear on some stuff that we'll probably talk about later. We have some music that we've been sitting on. Um, I'm pretty heavily influenced by progressive metal, and so I think that you'll start to see those influences shine through quite a bit.
Cool.
I
Okay.
love it.
Yeah, I would agree with Isaiah. I think we have always dreamed of heading into this um, progressive like death route, if you will. I'm not trying to overcomplicate it. And a lot of that I think is personality with myself and Isaiah. I think the most well versed in playing genres on our in our band is Elijah though. But for the things that have I think captured Moth Altar from like a creative perspective, we
Hmm.
love the way that progressive bands can sort of add this tension of pulling and constraining within music. And
Yeah.
a lot of, future releases we have, it's funny if you listen to our sets now live, we have a lot of what's on Prologue, but live it's a completely different experience, which is something we try to do on purpose, to where even I think Original Vision and Dichotomy as standalone singles, those were us still trying to fine tune heading in the right direction. And now I'm not saying we won't have other influences, but we like to be progressive as far as our music is concerned in that route to really allow kind of God to move on stage. We want to be like those vets who we don't have to worry about sticking only to 5 songs and that's it. It could be 3 songs and let's see what happens. And I'm growing in that more myself as a live artist, but I know that Elijah years touring and then Isaiah years being on worship teams, like they can do that very well. So it's something we're growing into. So I would say we are heading towards progressive. And I find a lot of Christian bands usually are either only metalcore or like hardcore. You don't find too many in between, and it's not because people don't want to. I just think that where we're heading is a little bit more. It's a little bit more nuanced, so you have to kind of know your things a little bit more than just down tuning and chugging. You really gotta be syncopated and know stuff, and we'll play the tracks and all that good stuff. So it is where we want to head, but yeah, that's what I say. Progressive metal, progressive death, I think.
I am so excited.
It. I know, me too. I'm like, this is so cool. I love it. Oh man, when I was like, I know I need to get into these questions, but as like a musician, like listening to it and listening to like the timing, just being like the guitar being so like crisp and like the bass sounds and like the drums, like everything, like the vocals, like everything is just on point. Like I was like, man, this is just some good stuff. Like you guys have to listen to them. Okay, enough bragging. Enough bragging for now. Okay. So, as I always do, this is always the first question I ask people, and I think it is definitely one of the most important ones. If you can name in a few words, what Jesus saved you from, if any of you want to go.
I mean, I can go first, I guess.
I love it, yeah.
Because I think that I love the question, but my immediate answer is like 2 things. What does Jesus not save me from? And like secondly, he's still saving me from things, if I'm honest with you. I think that constant walk. So it's like, I grew up in church, but like many people, I think it's just so easy to do, especially nowadays. Like, you can walk away so easily, and that can be a conscious thing or kind of a subconscious thing. But God's always been there. The Holy Spirit's always been in that place where, especially where you've been the most intimate with him, and then you walk away, it's like kind of hard to not hear him, you know what I mean? And so but I would say the biggest thing is like mostly just different addictions, I would say. And what's weird about that is I say that and it sounds so loose, like you probably think, oh, he's been in all these drugs and whatever, but it's like it's not even that. Like we can be addicted to absolutely anything. And I think God's constantly saving me from that, allowing me to have accountability and have this band, have people that I know are constantly there for me, good godly family. I have good parents, and so siblings, people that are always looking out for me. So I think God's constantly saving me from that. I chose to be straight edge over 10 years ago now, and that is, like I said, it's crazy because I really think that was a God. Oh, I know it was a God thing, but I really think that I can look in hindsight now and realize that God still saved me from addictions that I never got into, if that makes sense. And then also has saved me from ones that I didn't realize were addictions until it almost seemed like it was too late, and God really pulled me out of those things, and it's still still kind of cleaning up the residue at times. But like I said, there's a lot of accountability in my church community, in this band especially, and just in my family, in my personal walk with him. So yeah, that's for sure my answer.
That's amazing. Can I just say congratulations on 10 years?
Yeah, that's
that
a big
is
deal.
Like a big deal.
I think it's like close to 12 years now, actually.
What? Yeah, Mike, you're a bit over, huh?
Yeah, it's like 11 and some change. Thank you. Yeah.
That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
All right. So y'all are next on the chopping block. Who is it?
I'll go and then Isaiah on the next one. So I'm gonna expect you to go first. um, I'm very so I think one of the ways it was sent to us was like in 3 words. And I was like, kind of what Elijah said. I'm like, how can I quantify Jesus to 3 words? But I found a way. For myself in particular, it came down to he saved me from a life that would be passion without cause. And I thought very heavily about what that means to me. And, I'm someone who's a kind of a very driven person. I have a lot of strong fundamentals in my beliefs and in who God's called me to be. Very A-type personality. I do have insecurities like everybody else. I do seek the betterment of unity in the brothers of Christ and in the local body of the church, like everybody else. But I'm willing to fight for that unity, if that makes sense. So I don't desire to be a peacekeeper who just wants to hush everything and put it under the rug to deal with it later. I want to be a peacemaker where I will bring things out to the open in order for hard conversations to happen so that God could be at the center of true peace. And I had a lot of passions in my life, a lot of anger, a lot of directness, and I'd be very intimidating to a lot of people for being this way. And the Lord kind of saved me from passion that would go nowhere. And so it'd be like a fuse just kind of going off, and then the explosion happens, and then there's nothing better for it. In fact, there's just more destruction left. So he kind of saved me from being this way without there being a cause. And now that I'm kind of submitted to Christ and been following him for closer to 8-9 years now, I think maybe 10, he saved me from having no cause and no purpose with this passion, to where the Lord is very, very driven. He's very about the justice in the world and in the correct ways and biblical ways. And as am I. So I got to kind of take this sort of aggressive personality, this confrontational personality, and use it for the betterment of Christ to do things that he desires on the earth. And so that's kind of me in a nutshell.
I love that. Thank
That's
you for
awesome.
sharing that, using that passion that you used to have, and like, I guess just, for the wrong reasons, and then
Mm-hmm.
like God using that like in a good way, like, oh,
Yeah.
that's just so good. I love
Yeah.
it.
It happens a lot in our scene. I mean, you have people who aggressive music, it's very powerful. Like, I mean, grunge was birthed out of the Pacific Northwest, out of just being like, we don't have a place for our music, screw it, let's just go play here, and
Mm.
same with the hardcore scene. Like, if you want to find real fan bases, go look at any huge hardcore band, and they have like a cult following, because it's you gravitate towards those things, and there are a certain demographic of people, which is a lot larger than people think, that need to let out aggression in some way, even if that just means you're in a
Mm-hmm.
mosh pit, you're like, I want to go home now, I feel great. Or if even that means going to a show and just listening to something loud. Our genre kind of really is the underground of what could birth a lot of revivals. I believe that's why we're kind of called the metal.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes. Woo! So good. Thank you for sharing that. All
Yeah.
right, Isaiah.
Yep. So that leaves me. Gosh, it's hard to say it in 3 words. I don't know that I can do that.
It's
Because
okay.
there are many like really specific situations where like I would be dead just because I don't know, being out on the ocean on a sinking boat, like stuff like that, just crazy stories.
Mm-hmm.
So there are those like really literal, like he saved me, and then there are, part of my testimony. I struggled with like depression and suicidal thoughts for a long time, and it was serious. I was one of the guys that would never have admitted that I had that problem. So
Mm-hmm.
that tends to even compound that, because I'm not going to talk about it. So I'm just going to go home and sit there in my darkness by myself. And
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
it really like I think that it was at a conference with a bunch of men, and I watched Jesus actually walk into the room, and it was crazy.
Wow.
It's hard to even explain it. It's like he reached inside and pulled that out of me. And the day
Mm-hmm.
before that conference, I had been hashing this out with God for years. Like, God, I shouldn't have to struggle with this. I don't understand it. It's been since I was 8 years old, and here I am. At the time, I was 25. Um, and it was only getting worse. And I guess in the back of my mind, like I'd always believed I would live to 25, do the things I wanted to do, party, and then at that point, like just check out. Like that was it. That was kind of my
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
that was my
Yeah.
life plan. And so I got to like once I turned 25, I remember my mom had actually done like a surprise birthday party, and I remember that day was like I'm sitting there trying to be happy with everybody, and it was just like hell. So I was at the point where I was just like the lowest low.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of months go by, and I'm planning on going to this conference, and I'm like, God, I need an encounter with you that's going to fix this for good. Or when we get back, yeah, we're done. Like I'm I'm checking out. So, um, yeah, he literally showed up, and that was it was just crazy. It's hard to even explain. But I would say that was he saved me from death for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And it's so crazy that you say that because, like, it's like God. I don't know. This is like not the first story we've heard, like, from somebody where they're
Mm-hmm.
um, like they get saved at church. Like, usually I hear, oh, I got saved on my kitchen floor and, or something like that. But like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the fact that you were like, God, like, I need an answer. I need you to like reach your hand to me now and take this away. Like that deliverance, like, oh, it just gives me the goosebumps because it's like both Chill and I both can relate to that,
Yeah.
like personally. And
Yeah.
so the fact that you shared that, it just like, oh, I was trying not to cry. My eyes were watering. I was like, please stop crying. Oh, that is so good. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Isaiah, for sharing that. I really
Yes.
appreciate
Thank you.
you.
That's also why I like I kind of Isaiah's stories because it is a lot closer to home. I think, especially being out here in Texas, even though he's in North Carolina, but he will move here. um,
Mm.
is that you could be so close to God and miss him, and so for him to know him or be like, I do it now, or something's gonna happen, not threatening God, but to say I'm at the end of my rope.
Yeah.
It makes me it reminds me of being out here in Texas. I'm not from here in the Bible, but where I believe so many people grow up so close to God, but they could miss him, and it talks about that in the Bible. So
Mm-hmm.
I think stories like Isaiah's are special too when you realize that the end goal is to find Christ where you are, and then at that point it can change everything. So I love when he shares that story.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you. That is, oh. Jill, do you have anything to say to that before I move on?
Just I appreciate you talking about, just not wanting to open up to people, going home, isolating in the darkness. Like so many of us do that, even within our scene. That's kind of why we
Mm-hmm.
do have the heavier music. That is why we go to the venues that we go to, like the danker, the sketchier. The show's gonna be great.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great. So thanks for sharing that. I want you guys to know that like I know it can be challenging to be vulnerable, but people need to hear it. Like we're not alone. We all struggle with this. So thanks for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Thank you. All right. Question 2. How did you guys know that you were called to create heavy worship? Like, I know a few of you talked about how you were involved in like at your church and stuff. Like, were you like doing work, like just contemporary worship before, or like what's the backstory behind each of y'all's um, relationship with that?
Yeah, so Franco told me I had to go first on this one, so I'm going to be obedient to my.
Here
Whoa.
we
Love it.
go.
Yeah, so it's funny. Like, I work at a church, and even through that, I was on staff at a church, which might be kind of what made it a little bit harder to just open up and talk to people, because there's all that added pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I played on our worship team from about the time I started playing guitar, and I was really bad at it. And so probably like age 13, 14, all the way up until 2020, when I stepped back from playing to run sound for the church. And so that was just contemporary worship. We're non-denominational church, your usual Hillsong, Elevation, all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I played. I've always loved metal from the time I was 5. I was into Rob Zombie, and so that was kind of the catalyst for music for me. It was hard rock and metal and everything in between. And so I'd always wanted to do metal. But as far as to answer your question, when did I know that I was called to create heavy worship? That wasn't really ever part of the plan. I just wanted to do metal. And I was trying and I was joining, like there's a band that's local here to North Carolina that I was in. And it's funny because if I had remained in that band, I don't know, like my life would have followed a different trajectory just because, the people that you're hanging out with, the people you spend time with influence you
Yeah.
big, especially
Mm-hmm.
when you're in a position like I was at that age. So I was really striving, trying to make music happen, and it just wasn't working. And so I just finally got to the point I'm like, forget it. I'm just going to sit here and just write music, and no one will ever hear it, but I'm just going to do what I love to do. And that was how I ended up getting linked up with the band. I think I put on like one of the Christian metal Facebook groups or something, just like a little thing, trying to start an online project. And people, I'm sure you've been on Facebook. It's like the reading comprehension isn't always there. And so what happened was, um, instead of saying, "Hey, I'm wanting to work on music," they're like, "Oh, you should check this band out. They're really good. You might like their music." I'm like, "That's cool." I'm not looking for music to listen to. I've got a huge, catalog of stuff that I listen to. But they kept tagging Mothaltar, and then I think Franco and Aaron both had commented on it, and I didn't know that they were looking for some more musicians, and I don't think that anybody that tagged them knew that they were looking for musicians. It was just it just kind of worked out.
Wow.
And so after I had given up trying to do heavy music on my own, I ended up linked with some guys, and it was really cool the way that it all came together. And it was clear that the Lord was in it. But as far as when did I know or how did I know it, I really didn't until I met these guys.
Oh, I love it. It's like
That's
a little love
awesome.
story. Ah.
I'm
I
gonna
love it.
drink some liquid death to kind of
Yeah.
pass that love story comment.
It's the online band dating site, apparently.
Yeah, I'm
Gosh,
like,
yeah.
he
Band
wasn't
member.
looking for me, and I wasn't looking for him, and we found each other.
Right.
Right? How do
I
you
can I can go quickly. I can go quickly after because I actually love Elijah's deep history. Like I love it so much. So let me just because Isaiah went, we also share the same music inspirations, Isaiah and I, like to a T, which is like we can nerd out over the same things.
Mhm.
Mine in a way is kind of opposite from Isaiah's. I didn't care about music at all.
Mm.
I grew up fighting, as in not like, oh, like you mean street fights? Yes and no, but mixed martial arts, like I love it. I grew up in it. Jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, wrestling, boxing, all of it. I just grew up in Arizona. There are prestigious gyms out there. I just loved it.
Yeah.
I loved hurting people. It's part of, the aggressiveness we just talked about.
Yeah.
And when the Lord saved me and, we're like, let's point this into the right direction. Um, I'd gone to a bunch of metal shows. I liked heavier music, like off and on. I was never like, I wasn't a kid who said these are my top favorite bands ever. It's cool. It makes me move. Let's get in the mosh pit kind of thing. But I wasn't like a crowd killer either. So I was like somewhere in between. And upon becoming saved, the Lord changed my trajectory from fighting to just fight for my cause. And there were prophetic words spoken about using your mouth. So I'm like, I know in some capacity, I'm supposed to use my mouth, Lord. But I have a problem with church worship. I have a problem with the local body. And I have a problem with whatever church is. I didn't like it. And then obviously now we're here in 2024 when all the voices rose up to deconstruct or whatever you want to call it, to where we realized that the American church had got it wrong for the last 10 years about what mattered in God's eyes. Church is for him, not for us. And, we misunderstood that. And so
Right.
in that, I'm like, I want to preach for you, God, but how? And like many other people I stumbled upon for today and these other bands that were aggressive, I'm like, Lord, if this is a path you want me to go down, send me members. And he did that in Arizona. I was in a band out there for a little bit and then kind of left to choose more healing with God. I was on the path of following God, fell away for a little bit morally with me and some of the guys. We need to split and realign with who God called us to be. And in that time, I'd started a project. I knew I never wanted to be just a guy doing a solo internet project. I don't necessarily agree with that.
Mhm.
Encounters happen in person, not only online. And yes, we can get into that later. But what I mean is when that message happened to Isaiah, I was like, hey, do you like this? He said, does anyone like the Contortionist? And I'm like, I freaking love the Contortionist, and we connected. And I told him right off the bat, as I tell anyone who's on this, like, hey, we want to be a band that's out there praying for people, praying for healing for the sick, praying for the lost, praying for blind eyes to see, all the things. We believe in an
Mm-hmm.
active living God, and that's what we desire to do. That's the calling. Is I found my avenue in creativity and music. It didn't quite necessarily always fit with worship, but I knew I liked to scream. I liked this type of singing. This is the avenue to which I'm called. And so I left a band. The Lord kind of redeemed me and brought me to a redemption arc back to Texas. And then I start Mothaltar. And then along the way, I find Isaiah. That's Aaron was in the band at the time. So kind of here we are where he's saying we feel called. and have felt called in some capacity. But now we are sort of fine tuning with what that means for Mothaltar and how we're called as a band, because there's a lot of Christian bands out there, and we are very careful to make sure that we are floating to the top of that, not in a way of ego or not in a way of we're better, but because we care very intentionally about every step of what the Lord's calling us to do with each other, with our spiritual health, like Elijah mentioned, with who we are, with where we're currently at, with the production of our music, with how we're perceived and viewed online. All these pieces matter, because if we are going to be these people that we say we are called to minister and bring the good word through worship and encounters with God, in the metal scene, we have to live above reproach. And I don't think enough bands take time to do that are Christian, that are believers. And in the same way, the bands who make it quicker, that are just metal bands out there, they're also very intentional. It's a lot more business based, which that's okay. They're not saved, but the intentionality of your music is part of the calling. And so that's kind of how we came to be, and finish the other half of that love story with Isaiah.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I love like the passion that you have. It's just I can like feel it like when you're like speaking, and just like it's so like it's like refreshing, like how like I guess just authoritative it is, being like, well, this is like the facts. Like you cannot stray away from like what the Bible says. Like you're just like you're on it. So thank you for sharing that.
Well, can you reiterate the question?
Sure. So how did you know that you were called to create heavy worship?
Yeah, I remember seeing the question, and then even when you presented it at the beginning of this section, it seems like such a loaded question for me, but I think what God's highlighted is like weird key points that like I'll never forget. Because I've been kind of doing music at this point in my life for a majority of my life. And there's so many different like valleys and peaks and whatnot, whatever you want to call it, through the journey. And I think that there were some pretty clear-cut times where I knew I was supposed to do music, but I always knew, pretty much always knew it was supposed to be for the Lord. And there were times where like the beginnings of the journey, I would say, is like as a kid picking up different instruments. My musical journey is so strange because it definitely came full circle um, in recent years, because one of my primary incomes, especially when I was living up in Dallas, I'm a little further south now, but like when I moved to Texas, like the main thing I was doing was teaching music. Like living, breathing music has been kind of my thing. Majority of my life. So it's like when I was teaching music, I got to see how like, well, I started off really differently than a lot of kids. And also just I always tell people, something I always tell people about music and starting it is that it's never too late. Because I even like literally I say that all the time, because I don't work full time in the music scene anymore like I used to. And so when I'm in the workplace, I get people all the time that find out I'm in Mothaltar, or I've been in other bands, or I play music, and they're like always talking about it and like, oh, I wish I could play this, I wish I could play that. Or when they find out I play more than one instrument, they're like, I wish I could do that. And it's like, well, it's never too late. And so for me, I kind of had this crazy beginnings of like picked up piano probably like 7 years old, 8 years old. And I remember by the time I got to my first recital, I walked out of it just like chickened out. I was like, yeah, I think I'm done with piano. And like my parents were like, okay. And so then I pick up guitar a few years later. By like fourth and fifth grade, I'm playing, I have a really cheap, Fender Squire and a classical nylon string guitar. My parents didn't quite realize that's not the guitar I really wanted at the time, or was for what I was trying to get into. So all these different things in my musical journey eventually led to drumming when I was going to the church my family was going to at the time. Uh, I don't know what I remember. Like I said, I remember key points. Like one thing I do remember is I see images of like a few drummers that were playing in the church at the time. One was a kid that was my age. He was just a hair younger than me, not even a year younger than me. He would play, and I kind of in ways I don't even think I envied him looking back on it. It was just more like, oh, if he can do it, I can do it, and like there was like a guy drummer on the team, on the worship team, a female drummer, and like all these people. I was like, there's all these different types of people at different ages, and guy or girl, it doesn't matter. They're all playing the drums. Like, why can't I do it? I already, kind of picked up. I dabbled with other instruments, and so I basically, I basically decided, I don't know, just it became a thing. Like I had this passion that as soon as church got it out, parents linger all the time. They talk after church, which was to my benefit at the time. And I was like, I'm just gonna go sneak in, whether it's the drums on the main stage or back in the youth room. I'm gonna go sneak in and figure it out somehow. And I did. And the key point that I'm getting to here is that if I hadn't had that passion, which was totally like from the Holy Spirit for sure, um, I wouldn't have gotten to the point where when doing that, I was only literally weeks into doing that. Like I no lessons, and it was the only time I'd never gotten proper lessons. I was just doing it. And
Oh.
someone must have seen because I literally this was before cell phones. I got a phone call and I remember my brother answering it, my older brother, I'm the youngest. And so he answered it and was like, phone's for you. And I was like, who is it? And it was a Sunday afternoon. We already had church that day, and the worship leader had called and was like, "Hey, we whoever the drummer was at the time, they can't play tonight for Sunday night service. Can you come in?" And I don't even think my parents were home, and so like my brother and I were there, my sister was there, and like some friends that were older, my siblings' friends, and they were kind of laughing at me because I was just like dumbfounded, like, what? Why are you asking me to play drums? And like
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know I play drums. And I don't even think there ever was an answer. It was just like kind of like, no, you can like, or it was kind of like she knew I was questioning like my calling almost. Like she saw it before I did. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll do it. And so I ended up playing the Sunday night service that day, and my brother and his buddies that were older than me were sitting in the front row when we were rehearsing that night and just laughing at me because I was like, scared but not like I knew what I was capable of and I knew the gift that God had given me, but I was like, I don't like this is my first time doing it. And she just continued to like encourage and speak into me, and that was the first time I ever played drums in front of anybody, and I led worship that night, and then the rest was pretty much history when it comes to not only playing worship, because then I played worship all the way through, knew I was a worshiper, knew God called me to it, but that was just like the seed had been planted, and then like it just started growing from there. And that's when I was like, okay, I guess I'm a drummer, and took it very seriously. I mean, I could talk your ear off about like all the journey through, but like what's cool about that key moment, I've seen it come full circle because that worship leader, she actually moved to Texas years ago, well before I did, and her family. And to this day, we're still super close as family friends, all of us, because I play worship, my whole family plays worship, their whole family plays worship, and we've stayed friends for a very long time. And so, even when I toured years ago in a Christian metal band way back in the day, came through Texas, they came out, and like getting to see her, 10 years after, and this was like more than 10 years ago. This is a long time ago, just seeing that like like, hey, this is what you planted, like whether God showed you that or
Oh.
not, like
Yeah.
I'm a drummer now and a worshiper and doing all these things that like I knew, I don't know, it's just like God innately put it in me, but like it took, maybe her hearing him and obeying for me to actually become whatever I am now. I still definitely attribute like a lot of what I've done, all the anything I've ever done, to certain people that God put in my life and were able to speak into me, where like that moment I would not have pushed myself to do it. And
Yeah.
so yeah, like but to answer the question, like it's key moments like that where I know like it's above me, it's and even the talent and the skills and stuff, it's like God gave me those. I mean, I don't ever want to take credit for that because people speaking into me, the practice and the blood, sweat, and tears and the trial and error is all come
Mhm.
from the passion he's given me and the people that he's used to speak into me and teach me and train me along the way for sure.
Mhm.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is like,
Absolutely.
oh, I need to like listen to that in the morning, be like, you can do it. Like you're just like so motivational. I love it. Like just hearing that and like that you've always been like a worshiper, but like you didn't really realize it until it was like right there where you couldn't refuse that offer, playing the drums. Like you were kind of like going through this phase of, okay, well, it's not really piano, it's not really guitar, and then it was like the drums are what nailed it on the head, and it's just like, oh, that's
Yeah, it's
so
crazy.
amazing.
It
Like,
is crazy for sure.
and that's so cool, like having the person that like planted the seed in you come to watch you later and like in a Christian band, like that is just like mind blowing. That
Yeah,
like
and
that's kind of like movie stuff,
the
like,
the funny thing about that was it was in a tattoo parlor years ago. Like it's funny because her kids listen to the same, we grew up to the
So
same
cool.
Christian heavy stuff, but it was just like awkward, but like she was like proud. It was a proud moment for her and her husband and stuff, but like trying not to get hit in the mosh pit like in a small tattoo parlor, but like just seeing it come
wow.
full circle is really cool for sure.
Oh my gosh, I see you cheesing over there, Chill. I know you got something to
I
say.
just I just like how you said it was key moments, because I think a lot of times we get in our own head and we think that you're gonna have like a thus saith the Lord, you're gonna hear thunder and lightning. It's like this is what you're gonna do. And it doesn't always work like that. So thank you for sharing that. And just like, what does the scripture say? That man can plan, right? You can plan your life, you can plan your steps, but it's really the will of the Lord that prevails, right? So even though within you had been called to music, it was God himself who was just like orchestrating all of these little things to get you on the right path at the right time. And I know, like, for a lot of people, they think like you have to have it all together, you have to know what the plan is, and then you have to go and execute the plan. But we really have to take these steps of faith, and when the Lord brings that, when he brings that to you, either you're going to step out or you're not. So that's, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that's just like it's a small piece though of Elijah's whole story, because there's so much embedded into that to where, I know it'll be part of next, but he was in leaders, he was in Mara. And so I think when we met Elijah, this is how much I know the Lord loves Elijah. And I'm not going to speak to where he was at this time, but it was like this. I know that when I met Elijah, he was not actively doing music, but it's like the Lord knew so much that that was his calling. I knew Elijah for about a year before even Mothaltar happened, and it's like that's how much God loved Elijah and how much Elijah is called to do this particular type of music in this current day and age, because it's like he brought us Mothaltar to where the Lord knew we would take care of him and that we would respect where he's been, but welcome it as
Mm-hmm.
a brother, saying like your time's not yet done. And I'm not saying Elijah was like, oh, screw everything, but it's like you just make different life choices, and you put other priorities when life happens. And I'm just thankful. I always see that. I'm like, Lord, like that's how much you loved Elijah, is that now we have this channel to where we're like, holy crap, we have Elijah in our band, and we're rejoicing because we're like, this is the Lord's plan. And something that Isaiah and I always talked about, we're like, man, we need guys who are kind of at this level spiritually. Like we sometimes we will play with the line musically, but the Lord kind of did this with like the music and the spirituality, and it kind of far exceeded our expectations with both. So
Yeah.
I think I did, like he could literally talk for probably 4 hours and just scratch like 2 years of what the Lord's done with him through music in the local church out in California, but then also in the heavy scene just throughout touring and stuff. It's crazy.
That is so cool. I'm like, oh, I love y'all's like relationships with each other, and just, I could just, I feel the love because you're like, oh, if you just knew about what Elijah went
Mm-hmm.
through, or if you just knew what Isaiah went through, or even
Mm-hmm.
yourself, and it's just like, I could just feel like you guys are like truly like men after God's heart, like just like I just see the fruit, and like the way that you guys are just the way you talk, it's just different. Like, oh, just gets me on fire. I love it. um, so how do you get inspiration for your music now that you guys are all together? I know
Okay,
it's kind of
so
loaded.
myself and Isaiah, I would say like, so we have one band that will be in repeat until the day we die, to where like we're always creeping on their stories and pages and like what's going on with them. Is the Contortionist. They have been amazing. I mean, I think I don't know about you, Isaiah in particular, but myself, it was my old drummer from a band in Arizona who's like bro, you got to come to the show with me. And I'm like, this is stupid, bro. I'm not going anywhere with you. And it was a contortionist. I'm like, I never heard of him. This is dumb. He's like, I bought you a ticket. I'm like, cool, I'll go. And it was when Michael Lassar just joined the band when they were like touring for this album called Language. And it just completely blew me away that there was such intricacy, yes, even spirituality, even if I didn't agree with it, in the fact that this band cared so much for you to have an experience versus like, all right, guys, everyone, let's do this from the left to the right. Like, you know, like there's enough of that, like in bands, but to be able to sit there and kind of be immersed in an entire sound, that was like, I was like, well, this is insane. So that band will always inspire me the most. I'll let Isaiah talk for himself too, but that band will always inspire me the most. And then I love bands like Loathe. Loathe is up there for me. I would say there's a band that's kind of out of left field, but it's called Void of Vision. They're also really, really good. I would put them up there for me. And another one more recently, I would say is kind of Thornhill with when they're heading in this more. It's kind of like Loathe opened up this idea of like heavy bands don't just have to be breakdowns every minute and a half, and you can have more complexity to it. I know it's been out there, but it's happened more with the music that we like. So I would say those, and then Sleep Token. So that's kind of the ones that for us are for me, sorry, are the ones that have inspired me the most. But I'm always gonna kind of go back to that progressive route of like, man, the contortionist is just crazy. Like Isaiah and I will go back and listen to their live albums that they put out this year, and like, did you hear them do that? What about this? Oh my gosh, it sounds so good. So that's where a lot of my own kind of personal inspiration for music comes from.
So
Nice.
cool. Thank you for sharing that. Well, I gotta go listen to them now because I've never heard of them. So now I'm gonna go listen to
Dang,
them.
that's crazy. I haven't heard of them. Yeah.
You got to see them live though. That's the thing is like
For a
even
while.
when
Yeah,
they come through Texas, we're going like you can't miss it. So
Okay.
it's funny because they were on
Yes.
that. They were on. I think Franco, you saw them at that Periphery tour, right? Periphery was headlining.
I had
every
tickets
single
for
time, yeah.
that. I had
Yeah, that
tickets
was
for that
actually that
show.
was the tour that I saw them and got into them because before that, people would show me like the Exoplanet album and I'm like, it's cool. It's just a bunch of noise, but it's cool. It just didn't. And then I saw them live and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is different than any band I've ever seen. It was just
Mm-hmm.
experience.
I
And
was so bummed because
yeah,
I had tickets for that show and then COVID happened. So it got rescheduled and then rescheduled. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to take the refund and wait.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
uh, it was such a good show. Now I've seen them so many times. But I'll probably answer the question differently than saying like there's a particular band or bands that I get inspired from, which there are bands like the Contortionist, Rivers of Nile. But my influences like that are kind of everywhere. I think that when I go to write music, I normally start out with like an idea, a motif, or I'm really big into like orchestral or like electronic music. And so a lot of times, like the riffs, the guitar parts, those kind of come last. I'll get into like, I don't know, just start throwing down some strings or some melodies or even, some rhythms on the drums. I'll start programming that stuff. And then it's kind of like a really organic way that I get inspired because I'll start a song. Like if you listen to the first demo that I sent the guys of Original Vision, it's so different than what it turned into because just I kind of get inspired along the way and things start to change and I can't leave well enough alone.
Yeah, yeah.
I get inspired by and through the process of writing.
That's so cool. Oh my
That's
gosh, I
really
didn't even know that
cool.
you programmed the drums too. Like, what the heck? Like, are y'all like, y'all are something else? Like, you're just, I can't. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Gave away our secret, Isaiah. My goodness.
Yeah.
I programmed the drums for the demos.
Yeah.
What ends up on the recording because I'm not a drummer by any means. So I program drums for like four-arm drummers, and it just yeah, I let the drummers do the final edit.
Right.
He's
I
he's
love
not that
it.
he's not that bad at programming drums. He's good at it. Yeah, I mean, there's kind of different ways to answer the question, but I guess I'll kind of close it out with like saying that, um, yeah, even what Isaiah does, like, so for me, I kind of tailor what I do when it comes to writing to who I'm with, um, which isn't hard for me to do. I something that the guys already know, I think pretty well about me now, and we haven't even really dove into like because we have something new coming out, but then we're already writing for stuff way past that. So that's
Uh-huh.
kind of what Franco means by like we've been sitting on it for a minute, but it's like for me, writing is just like I have this the way I describe myself to everybody is like I have a producer mindset. So like I hear the whole picture And I feel like that's definitely for sure what God has me do with just music in general. Like I have this ear that I feel like some people just have that gift, I guess. And I feel like I really can hear like like the finished piece. Like even like I'm not saying like if Isaiah writes something because I love his approach. Like everybody approaches things differently, but it's like if I hear what he has, I'm not gonna be like, this is the final thing and it's done. It's more like, okay, like I feel like I can take people's like strengths and weaknesses and like call them out. And
Mm-hmm.
and like so like with the new EP, it's like I don't feel like I like when we were going through the mixes of that and stuff, it's like I can basically tell you like thumbs up, like that's good, or like, you know, like this part, like I feel like we can do something better here, you know. And so that's kind of my like idea of approaches with most bands. And there's some bands where like I've had to do way more, you know. When I was writing stuff in a band that I had started, I had taken it from when I left another band where I was just like that, like each band has a different role, and in that band before I was just the drummer, you know. So like I'd program the drums myself, but it was just to like slap it together. And like granted, I could program pretty much exactly what I'm going to play physically, but that was just my only thing. And so when I moved on and was like, hey, I'm writing new music, like I would sit there and grab a guitar myself or program something and then track, you know, scratch track over the program parts and, you know, just kind of do whatever's called for in that moment and with that band. And so with Mothaltar, we still have a lot of room to kind of mess with what we're going to be doing. But overall, I feel like no matter what, even if I'm just dabbling in drums or, you know, the plan is, you know, between all of us doing, between me and Isaiah doing most of the music just together, you know, I don't care if I have to pull out, you know, a riff idea or a bass line or whatever, or even synth parts. It's like we're just gonna kind of do whatever feel like we feel God leading us to do, and that, and like it's at the end of the day, I feel like I feel like I guess the best analogy is for like if like I've done a lot of like woodwork and stuff, and it's like that final coat, you know what I mean? Like that final coat
Yeah.
ties it together where like, you know, if you stain something and you have the final coat, like nothing's gonna really tarnish that easily, you know. And so I feel like that final coat to like to this band specifically is, even though it's my calling as an individual, like we're a unit that God has called. So I feel like we can I feel like I can kind of speak into that when like Isaiah has an idea, or even, you know, whatever, whoever's written what part, it doesn't matter. I just feel like God's kind of shows me like I just have this ear, and I just the way I listen to music. I listen to a lot of music, and even in seasons more recently where I'm not listening to a lot, I feel like God just still gave me that natural gift to like hear what works and what. And so with Moth Altar being so unique, it's just it's really fun. It's one of the cooler projects I've ever done because, you know, like kind of like what Franco was saying, it's like I've played in hardcore and metal, I played in indie bands, I played in all kinds of stuff, and it's like I can write the cookie cutter stuff as Isaiah could too, like in an instant. I mean, I don't know why I'm not doing it. Like why not get paid to do that? Because that's what people look
Yeah.
for nowadays. But it's like Moth Altar is unique and you know, just set apart to do some pretty cool stuff. So I think all of our uniqueness, I feel like God will continue to show the highlight, you know, the strengths in each of us to be able to pull that together. But I mean, like with music, I listen to all kinds of stuff. So I don't know. I think the inspiration just really ultimately is going to come down to I think the guys are my inspiration. I think what they've written thus far is an inspiration for me, and just being able to whatever God puts in my heart and my mind, being able to lay it out is kind of just the way I feel I would approach any future releases for sure.
That's
That's so
so cool. I
yes.
really admire just like the humility and the respect you guys have for each other, like the willingness to set aside your ego, set aside the pride. It's not about my vision. It's not about what I want to say. It's about what does God want us to say, right? What's best for the song? And I think that's what makes this band's sound stand out. When everybody as a unit has that same attitude and that same willingness, like it reflects in the music. I like tremendous amount of respect from me to y'all for that, because like I think that's like a mark of a true musician too. You know, when you understand that you're a team player, right? And we have a common goal of making music. Like, thank you for bringing that. Thank you.
Yeah, that's not always easy. That's something we have had to be incredibly intentional about. I don't know if I'm supposed to get into all of this or not, but like during the writing process,
Mhm.
for original vision. We butted heads. We had a pretty good blow up on a couple of FaceTime calls that we had, because it was that there were egos that were getting in the way on my part, and then one of the other guys at the time. Um, and so we had to figure out how to move past that. And so it was really interesting the upcoming music, the upcoming EP came together, because
Mhm.
when I joined the band, I had this huge folder full of demos and all of that stuff, of stuff that I had been writing that I thought would fit well. And I think that you'll see that later on. But the stuff that we're going to release is actually new. Like the stuff that we're going to release in the future is going to be much older than the immediate release that's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were intentional about sitting down and saying, instead of using Isaiah's ideas or Aaron's
Yeah.
ideas or Franco's ideas, we're going to sit down together and like write together. And it was cool because at that moment, our producer, Matthias Olsen, he's based out in Sweden, he had approached us and said, "Hey, here's a handful of songs that I'm not going to do anything with. You guys can have them." And now it probably hurt his feelings what we did to the songs, because they don't sound anything at all like what maybe there is like a drum pattern on a ride cymbal that was the same, but that was it. But through being intentional and putting each other first, we
Mhm.
were able to create something that I'm really proud of and excited to release. But that unity was something we have worked for and are very, very intentional about.
That's really amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, definitely. I love that. I love the fact that you guys don't put somebody like on a pedestal and like, oh, this person's more important than the other one, and you guys are being equal rather than, saying, oh, well, the singer is gonna, everybody should just talk to them or know them, and but it's like you guys are a team, and it like shows that you guys value each other, and that's super important because the egos, like at the end of the day, we're all still human, and sometimes, at least for me, I still slip up, and I'm like, Lord, like you need to check me again because I need to check myself. Like it's easier said
Yeah.
than done at times. So I appreciate you guys sharing that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and them getting into that too with it, like it does stem from that. For Mothaltar, the inspiration is God. Like it'll be, I feel these are the directions we're supposed to write about, thematic wise, for future songs, or things coming up. It's, if you hear so many ministers of the faith talk about how the Lord will give them visions of what the next couple of years would look like, there's no reason why music shouldn't be that way. In fact, I think we kind of get too short-sighted, especially in the Christian realm, of like, I'm going to release an okay song with
Mhm.
some pretty good graphics, put about maybe $500 behind it, and then just ask everybody to give me a bunch of money, and then we're going to blow up, and it's going to be great. When we've had people who, just even thinking of someone like Lou Engle, who's, I mean, he would spend time fasting and praying to her. I mean, he sold his house to fund a movement of God that was a $1.3 million house, and
Mm.
he's still funding things of God right now, saying, "The Lord gave me this vision when I was 20 years old, and right now he's in the later stages of his life before he goes to see the Father." And so when I think about that in terms of music, like we are not just called to write right now, we are writing for the future and for what the Lord has for generations to come. I mean, we're still
Mhm.
listening to For Today right now. Whether you
Yeah.
liked the metalcore or not, whether they got repetitive or not, you're still like, I remember when I went to that show and God moved. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You remember that.
Yes.
If
Yes.
nothing else, that's what you remember. And that's where Mothaltar is heading to, where I think it's funny Isaiah says that, because we make jokes of like, we had some members in the band, who would want 2-minute songs. And Isaiah's like, I'm going to have one 30-minute track. And you're like, dear God, on both sides. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
it was like, we had to find the balance, and everyone does kind of have their role. It's like, while we each have our roles and respect those, we can speak into each other. Like when Elijah joined, we were like, holy crap, we've got to up our live performances because this guy's insane. But then at the same level, we're like, okay, we can learn from him. And then with Isaiah, I'm like, man, I know he has entire stories of like, there's a way that I would communicate a feeling versus how Isaiah would through music, and then seeing them come together. Or guys, what do you think fits vocally or doesn't? Like we don't just want to be one purpose band, and we've all loved that and seen that. I mean, I want Elijah to scream and sing on stage. I want Isaiah to be playing guitar and out of nowhere flip it around and gets on the keys and is doing something crazy. We're not making it about, this is my role. I'm the vocalist, I'm the drummer, I'm the guitarist.
Mhm.
It's a piece, which is why I said at the beginning, we're very intentional about our music because we want there to be an encounter or an experience that people would call it who don't know God when they're at our shows. And when we kind of come on and our set comes on, we've made it intentional to be, it's going to sound and feel different very tangibly. And that's something we've worked towards, which is kind of the things that we've been talking about now.
That's so
Ooh.
cool that you even brought up like the whole legacy concept. I talked to my son about this a lot, right? Because I mean, I'm telling him you can chase after money, you can chase after girls. There's
Mm-hmm.
lots of things you can chase after, but your true legacy, like that's generational. There's a reason why
Mm-hmm.
it's the God of
Mm-hmm.
Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's legacy. And when you can find legacy like that, invest in that. Absolutely. So, who is it? I think it's who is it? Sleeping Giant? I think it's their song to where he's like, we want to leave a legacy of praise. Like that song gets me every time. And like
Mm-hmm.
the first time I heard that, I was like, you know what? They're doing it. That is a legacy of praise because it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter that the band's not together anymore. And it doesn't matter that I didn't get saved until 2017 and I'm like way late to the game. None of that matters
Mm-hmm.
because that's what a legacy of praise is. So like I'm gonna be praying for you guys because I want that legacy
Yeah.
Yes.
vision for y'all too. Like I
Me
want that for
too.
y'all.
Oh,
Appreciate
so so good. Um, so actually it leads right into the next question, which is perfect. Um, what's your favorite song that you guys have written so far? Like why is it? Why is it your favorite song?
I'm curious for Elijah, but for myself, there is a song called "The Almond Tree" that, as of right now, for me, is I think my favorite. And by my favorite right now, it means the more I listen to it, the more I'm like, that's a 10 out of 10. That's a 9 out of 10. That's a 6 out of 10. This is a 2 out of 10. I absolutely hate this song. Back to the drawing board. So I'm like, do I answer them or tell them I haven't written it yet? I don't know. But as of right now, this recording, this song called "The Almond Tree," I would say I think is my favorite that I've written to lyrically thus far.
Amazing. I definitely want to hear that now. It's so good. All right. Who's next? Elijah or Isaiah?
I'll go next and let Isaiah go last, I guess. Yeah, it's a good question. I've been we like the EP we've been sitting on for a while. I jam it pretty often for different purposes, but it's weird. I kind of came back to an older song. Well, it's like older now because it's technically older than the EP. Um, but Dichotomy is probably my favorite. I think only because I know it's are we talking we're talking about songs that are being released, right? Like that's okay. It's I don't know.
It's up to you.
I
It's
don't
up
know.
to
I don't know.
you.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
Yeah,
up to
I'm
you.
also asking Frank
I
if
would.
it's
We could
like
say that. We could say the name of them. I mean, it's no
no,
one's
yeah,
gonna,
because well, because people. I mean, you can go on Spotify and find Dichotomy. It's there, but like the
Exactly.
EP is gonna have a different version, basically. Um,
Ooh.
not like crazy different. Like this, the structure is virtually the same, but like I actually like the nuances to the new one. And I know like when we were talking about mixing it, there was like a lot of back and forth and a lot of like subtleties that like I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, Franco, but like, eh, do you like Dichotomy better now or not than the old version? Like,
I
no,
do because
you do. Okay, go
I
ahead.
100% do because I got the chance to grow into being an actual vocalist, and someone like you and Isaiah really helped me out to where I've gotten better because of you two. Where the biggest problem that's plaguing Christian metal right now is that you will find a single vocalist who um, is by himself and doesn't grow because everybody can scream, and not everybody can scream, but what I mean is live, you can get away with that. But actually growing in your
Mm.
craft to where even on down two guitars, I'm like, I remember the song being an F. I can hear these things. And Isaiah and Elijah have great ears. So when I retracked vocal singing for Dichotomy, I was like, man, I feel better and I fit into it better. And I know what my voice can begin to do. And because of that, there are more nuances in it to where it sounds better and more full.
Yeah.
And you're a big part of that because you're like, let's mess something or let's do this. Let's, you know what I mean? And you have to either accept that your bandmates want the best for you or be like, you guys suck. You know what I mean? You have
Yeah.
one or two choices. You have one
Mm-hmm.
or two choices, and that's the part that's left us be open where I don't, and unless I'm wrong, they'll correct me. I've definitely had, I have gotten into it with past members for, I believe even now, I would say for the right reasons. If they were on this call, I would still say for the right reasons, for unity and for God. But like, I think what's so great and special about this is him talking about that song is out of all of them that I've re-listened to, that's the one where I'm like, oh, I've grown the most. To where the other songs have singing in them, it's part of that growth. But even still, there's still work to be done. You know, like Elijah's saying, there's never you're never finished or it's never too late. So I'm still growing as a vocalist, thankfully. But yeah, like I think you're right. Dichotomy does sound a lot better this time around.
Okay, well, yeah. So I mean, like dichotomy for me, the reason I picked that one, it's what's ironic about it is, it's like pretty much. I mean, it's kind of like the least heaviest song on the EP, which is just funny because like I've been kind of telling people like all the jokes that people talk about in the scene, like it's weird the fact that like I'm constantly becoming like the oldest member of the band because I was so like I started touring at 17. I got asked to tour at 15.
Mhm.
So it's like I was like the young
Wow.
kid, like, seeing that like I'm like constantly the older guy now and like I can feel myself being the older guy. Like Mothaltar is definitely like, and getting back into drums full time is like it's gonna keep pushing me. Like I'm only
Yeah.
getting old, you know. So
Yeah.
it's like Dichotomy is like the lighter song in its own way, but like that's kind of who I am now. It's like I don't find myself listening to a ton of heavy music, but I'll still
Right.
listen to it. So like
Yeah.
it's still part of me. It's still my calling. I whatever. But like something about the sound, like the sound sonically and also lyrically, like I've also felt for me personally, Franco's lyrics in it, I, they still speak to me, of course, but I feel like there's been times where like God's used it even in my own listening where I can hear it and like, all right, like this is relatable, like even in small moments, even if it's just in tidbits. But the reason I asked if Franco liked it was because Isaiah mentioned, we, you know, our producer isn't from here and has like a sound and whatever that he likes that like the band doesn't necessarily like, you know, like Isaiah already pointed to. It's
Hmm.
kind of changed our own thing, you know, in certain areas, and like he wanted to do more to that song. But I think where it sits now, it's like I've kind of like grown to like this is good, like this is where God wants it, and I wouldn't really touch it. And all, you know, so that's the one I pick, I guess, just because it's the one that keeps speaking to me the most. Like, and I kind of find myself like when I listen to it, like I said, I listened through the new EP that we will release for different reasons multiple times, at least once a week, just to kind of listen through and keep refreshing on.
Hmm.
Like that's the one I kind of like, you know, go to, I guess. So that's, I guess, is why I'm picking it. I don't know. I didn't have an answer for that question beforehand, or on hand, but that's the one I think God takes me to a lot. So, which is fun because it's not the heaviest one. It just, there's something about it where I listen to it and it speaks to me spiritually, but also just, and it's fun to play. I like playing that song. There's actually a
That's so
video on YouTube
cool.
of us playing that live.
Oh,
So
really?
never want
We'll
Yes,
link it.
plug
We'll
that
link
in.
it.
Uh-huh. We're gonna plug everything in. Even I
to.
want to know about that almond tree though.
No, you
Right?
will.
Yeah,
You will.
yeah, you for sure will. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I was like, I want to know what's up with that.
yeah.
Just to hear what the hype is now. Okay, I'm sorry, Isaiah. You
All
go,
Write
right.
it down.
Isaiah.
It's okay. I think for if we're talking about the EP,
Or any song. It doesn't
Any
have to be
song.
the EP.
Whichever, whatever you like. Yeah.
The new
well,
one you're writing.
you guys were all answering the EP, so I think on the EP, I'm not going to give the names away, unlike you guys. We're just spoiling everything. Um,
No, Dichotomy's
track
out.
two,
That's why I still checked and it was already out, technically.
yeah,
It just
yeah,
That's
hasn't.
my
yeah.
bad.
That's
That's
how
my
I
bad.
get.
Yeah.
There's a different version.
I'm gonna say track two is one that I really like, and then the breakdown on the last song on the EP. Those are two of my favorite
Oh man.
things on there because that's I just know live. If Elijah's not liking heavy music, he's gonna hate playing that because
It's not that I
it's
don't like it.
it's gonna get people moving.
I can tell you my favorite heavy song on it.
Yeah, I think that as far as like the songs that we have that are available to the band that I've written, there's a demo that I'm really looking forward to getting into called Leadwater, and yeah, I'm really excited for that one.
Oh, I'm so excited now. Like you guys, like hurry up so everybody can hear it. Which I will get into later about asking you questions about how that's when those things are
Mhm.
happening, coming out. Um, what is your most memorable moment with your music so far? And like was it like hanging out together? Because I know you guys say that you're living in different places. So I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, we're myself and Elijah are down here in Texas. We're about like an hour and a half away. Isaiah's in North Carolina, but like I said, he's moving down here. But that's the intentionality we're going back to is when we had the conversation, I said, hey man, I know you're far. Let's write this and let's see what God does. But we want to actually go play shows and encounter people. Like, are you a part of that? And I mean, just the dedication that Isaiah's put into that as a member, the Lord's going to bless him like on his own personally for the time and effort he's put into Mothaltar. I don't know if it's the same for them, but we put a show last year, kind of around this time. The anniversary already passed. It was around the 16th, 17th, 18th, something like that,
And
guys.
month,
But
been a year.
yeah, it's
Was
been a year. Right? We
it
played a show with exactly, yeah, with our brothers in Bloodlines. We absolutely love the band Bloodlines.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are many bands out there, but one that we feel kind of more kindred spiritual. We're like, hey, you guys are chasing the same God that we're chasing. It's Bloodlines, and so we played a show with them to where we opened right before them, so there was a lineup us and then Bloodlines. They were headlining before they went to go play at a festival, and I remember just texting Alexis. I'm like, hey man, what are you feeling? What's going on? He's like, I just want people to encounter God. So we kind of,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, and this is no disrespect to any of the bands. I can't even remember who was on the bill, but it was a band, and then us, and the atmosphere changed because we brought the presence of God, and we sort of lobbied it up for it. Hey, the room's ready for you to do whatever you want to do. And halfway through Bloodline set, they spent time for just they made time for altars to happen. And so,
Mm-hmm.
Alexis calls me to the front, and we're just literally praying over people. The band comes up, and we're just laying hands on whoever is willing to hear and accept Christ. We had a move of God, and these are things that, unfortunately, everybody thought died with for today. But to see that there are other bands out there doing things like this, what is to me has been the most impactful moment to where I know there are brothers in the faith and there are bands and there are members of bands and believers who actually still desire to see this, if not in greater than capacity of what Ford today did. Because that's the way it should be. We want to pass those before us, but still honor them. So we're like, man, we want to have encounters happen. So for myself, it was that show with Bloodlines last year, February, and the Spirit of God broke out, and it was just amazing.
Oh, I can definitely testify that Bloodlines, when we went to go see the aggressive worship tour with them and Convictions and a few of the other Confessions of
Mm-hmm.
a Traitor and all them, oh my gosh. I
Right,
was
right.
like, I
They
felt
came through here.
the
Mm-hmm.
Spirit of God, like when they were like straight up like preaching like the gospel in front of all these like people, like
Mm-hmm.
you got people like drunk, you got people like
Mm-hmm.
the Christian metalheads there, and it was just like it was like a it was like a shift, like nothing I'd ever really experienced before at a show. So like,
But that's bloodlines for
yeah.
you. I've seen them, what, 3, 4 times now? Every single
Exactly.
time. They are anointed.
These guys are
They
really
are
good.
anointed.
Mhm.
Yes. Amen.
Um, I could speak to that because I think that with kind of what Franco said, like I've been in this scene, especially the Christian metal scene, for a very long time. Um, and it's cool that you bring up that show. Like that truly was, if I actually were to kind of equate it to anything else, I would say, and another thing, this isn't like this, it sounds dumb online because people are gonna hear this or whatever, but like, so for today, I'm actually really good friends with those guys. And so I haven't seen something like a year ago since like I got to watch For Today do what they do for a very long time and like very
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and like I literally like what Franco said, like he's kind of like name dropping For Today, like it's kind of like that's what everyone looks at even from the outside that's not a believer looking at Christian metal, but like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there hasn't been something like that in a very long time. I think the closest thing
Mm-hmm.
to seeing the Holy Spirit actually like actively move in like a public live show like that wasn't church, because that was a year ago, was straight up church, like it really was.
Right,
Like
right.
I haven't seen that since like maybe Sleeping Giants last show, which was several years ago. So
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know, like that stuff was the norm for, you know, for the dudes like Sleeping Giant and for today, but like yeah, you just don't see it a lot. And so I was just kind of like piggybacking off of what Franco said for that moment. That was a pretty cool moment. But I guess my question is, is your question geared towards with Mothaltar specifically or just in general?
Right, because you have a lot of history.
Yeah,
So
that's I'm like, yeah, I don't know what, yeah.
I was more gearing towards Moth Altar, like with you guys like right now.
Yeah. So like with Mothaltar, even before I joined, or even before filling in before I joined, Mothaltar only has had played a few shows, like in
Right,
general.
5, I think 4 or 5.
That,
Yeah,
that's a really small amount for
Wow.
any band. So, um, and what is the question again? I like to like
Oh
really
no,
hear.
it's okay. Like it doesn't even have to be a show. Like it could just be the most memorable moment you've had, like
hmm
with the guys. Like it could be like writing or just I
hmm
don't know, somebody's going through something and you guys pray for them and anything.
Yeah. Yeah, most memorable moment. I mean that show definitely is a really good memory. Um, there's a lot of good memories to that show. But like I said, not a ton of shows have happened. I guess I would just say getting to finally getting to finally meet like Isaiah. What I met him during that time, jamming with them for the first time. That was a good memory. Just like being able to kind of like finally physically put like everything in.
hmm
I've known Mothaltar since I moved to Texas, pretty much because I had like just started, and then like Franco and I became
hmm
friends pretty early on, so for a few years now. But like, yeah, like just getting to finally meet Isaiah was like okay, like getting put in a face to the name kind of thing. That show, there were Pokemon cards during that show, which was kind of cool. Someone threw some
What?
So sick.
it's funny now because like we're kind of in our Pokemon kick again as a band. So it's like looking back and like,
Oh
oh yeah,
yeah,
that happened. Like, why didn't I just grab some of those cards? But whatever.
right.
Missed opportunity.
I
But
love it. That is so
Next
cool.
time.
next time.
Oh my gosh, that is so. Thank you for sharing that. That's amazing.
No,
All
I
right,
think,
Isaiah.
yeah, I think for me, I'd say that show. That show was something special because I felt like at that point it was just, I mean, the spiritual element was absolutely there, but we were also at a place with each other. We were comfortable with what we were doing. It was fun. It felt good. The presence of God should be fun, and we
Yeah.
had fun in the presence of God that night. It was a great time. Um, so that would probably be my serious answer. Um, I don't need to elaborate on it anymore because they both did. I think the other answer, I don't know if Franco knows what I'm going to share or not. We had a guitar player. He's left. His name Franco's already laughing. I don't know if I can keep a straight face and tell the story. His name's Kevin. I love Kevin, man. He's a good guy.
Yeah, Kevin.
He's a,
Yeah.
but he marches to the beat of his own drum, and I would say this to him. He's different. He approached his life different, and I think that's one of the things that I just love about him. And we were getting ready to shoot the original Vision music video.
hmm
We're getting dressed, and this dude, like, he goes to put on the shirt that he's going to wear. And I think me and Franco and our friend Ben all noticed it at the same time. This guy puts on a shirt like nobody we've ever seen, and it's not something I could ever forget. I probably think about it like once a day how this guy puts on a shirt. It sounds weird, but he puts the whole thing on
Oh God.
this, wiggles down into the shirt, and then puts his arm through the holes. And it was just something.
What?
It's just you said most memorable, so it's like etched in my brain. I think about it often.
Oh my
I've seen
gosh.
something like it before.
Now I'm going to be thinking about that once
Right?
a
I'm gonna
day,
be
just
thinking
being
like
like,
Oh man.
how
like
did this
what?
We
Like a
happen?
little
we miss
worm.
and love Kevin.
It's like a crazy sporadic worm that's trying to break out to freedom. It's not soft and cute. It's very aggressive and you're like, "Are you okay?" And it's the craziest thing ever.
We
Oh
made him
man,
do it
yeah,
about
we
5 more times before we let it go.
yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I want to link that music video down below so that everybody can see the man
Okay.
behind the story. Because I'm very curious now. I'm gonna watch that after we're done. I'm not gonna lie to you. I just want to know.
Yeah, you'll know. You'll
Oh
know
my
who Kevin is.
gosh.
Yeah, other guitarists at the time.
All right. Last but not least, what piece of advice would you give a new musician wanting to create heavy worship?
Who's going first?
I'll tackle it. I'll tackle it.
All right.
Because I've actually been thinking about this question when these questions were sent over. This was the one that stood out to me the most. I think that one thing that we see in Christian metal, and I'm not trying to talk badly about anybody, but there's a lot of mediocrity that's become acceptable, right? I don't know if it's because of budget or maybe they just don't have the right connections. But my advice is that if you put God first, you're going to put the things that you serve Him with right up there. Because if God is who you say He is, you're going to present Him your music is an offering. And so what I give to God should be no less as great as what I would give to a friend. It should be something that's more
Mm.
acceptable. So it is worth the money to, if you're going to do a music video, to put, another $1,000 into it to make it a stellar video, or to make that music. It's worth investing into that production if you're doing it for God. And so that would be my advice. It's that Colossians 3:23. Do everything that you're doing as though to the glory of God. So what you present to God, do it in excellence. That would be my advice.
I love that.
Nice. I like it.
Nice. Yes. Thank you. I'm looking at you, Isaiah, because you got a twinkle in your eye.
Who, me?
Go again.
Oh, sorry, not Isaiah. Elijah.
It's
Oh,
because
no,
he went
Oh my
first.
God,
Oh,
I mixed
Frank.
up the names. I'm sorry.
That's okay. My little brother, his
Dang
name
it.
is Elijah, and I'm used to it getting called.
That's where I got duped. I'm
I was gonna
trying
say,
to
That's
find you
funny.
guys to
we're
add y'all
pretty much
to our
both
group
used to it.
chat, and I just friended both Elijahs. So there's that.
Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, I think the only piece of advice that I would have is to not do it alone. It's something along with Isaiah. I think a lot of the mentality of just bare bones is very synonymous with church mentality. And we would see pastors get paid close to nothing to
Mm-hmm.
steward the presence of God, and then we somehow accept poverty mentality of like, if you want to do everything for God, don't worry about anything else but Him. But the Lord asks us to weigh costs. He asks us to tithe, and He will bless us, and it's okay to be blessed abundantly because that's something He promises. And I think in the midst of this, we have somehow believed that um, the internet has become one of the most fascinating tools for so many reasons. And one of my cautions and the things that really grabs my heart is when bands do it solo and do it alone. I get why it is cheaper, it saves money, you can do it at your own pace. All these things are good. But if God is truly calling you to impact the scene, then there has to be a drive to meet in person, to go do things, and to have the connection that God desires for His people. I mean, there were people who I laid hands on, what the Bloodline show we referenced, where I knew they needed something. And imagine if I only pushed for Mothaltar to have only a big production online and to never play shows.
Hmm.
So for me, I'm saying don't do it alone. In that I get why online it's easier. I get why being a single man band is easier, but I don't know that I could find many stories biblically where if you're alone, it's better. And that's just,
Mm-hmm.
if we're all reading the same book, it's with people and tribes that ministry grows.
Right.
Jesus brought people close around Him. And so I get why that happens. I'm not trying to like harken it like it's bad. My whole throw is online, but we always had the push of we need to go and encounter the people, have the Lord encounter the people. I would say don't do it alone. Find people who can help you grow and help you be accountable. If you're by yourself, you will cap very quickly, and you don't think you will. You absolutely will, and it will be self-serving, I believe. And I know there's a lot of other bands out there that are Christian that would probably argue this is just for us and how Mothaltar decides to run. We want to be in person. We want to meet people. We want to cry with people. We want to see God do miraculous things, and want to go home, lay our heads down, and be like, that was insane. God moved, and I can't wait to do that again. So I would say don't do it alone, as hard as it might be. Do not do it alone.
Come on. Thank you for sharing that.
Community, it's important.
Mm-hmm. Definitely so.
Yeah. Yeah, I would tie all that together, I guess. Because it's funny how both answers, all you have to do is look at what Franco and Isaiah are saying, really is the same thing that you would give advice to any believer doing any sort of ministry. It's not any different. Um, what's crazy is, like, we could talk about music and I can talk about whatever experiences I've had and this and that, but I think what it really boils down to is this answer could sound cliche and we end the call and walk away and we're good, but really what I want to say and what I mean to say is an important thing that is just important for your overall foundational structure in your life, in your walk with God and everything. So, like, really truly hear when I say that you cannot do whatever we want to call it, heavy worship. You can't do the band, you can't do whatever you're trying to do, whatever ministry you're trying to do, without your intimate time with the Holy Spirit and allowing him to guide you. Because what I have
Mm-hmm.
firsthand seen in my own life and my own bands and everything I've ever done, because I've been in Christian bands, but I've literally watched, I'm not going to dive into it, but I've watched my bands fall apart when there actually was a calling that was greater that we didn't get to do. And
Mm.
God put everything on a platter for us, and we still didn't get to walk that out because of everything under the sun other than following the Holy Spirit and following his voice,
Mm-hmm.
and being in unity. All the things that Mothaltar that we talk about even in this interview, it's like we're saying it and we're not perfect, but we actually are still living that out, and we're still walking that out together. And unity is like the word that God's been giving us, and it's like you actually need that. And you actually need to hear God and give him your time of day, even though, for me, even it's hard to do, but you have to do it because um yeah, there's just too many egos and just ideas that come from our own minds and from our own hearts that really they truly won't get you anywhere. And even if the bands like For Today and Sleeping Giant aren't like really a thing anymore, um the legacy that you guys talked about is still there, and the Holy Spirit can literally still move in any old uh album or song, or even a YouTube video, things like that. So I just would encourage anybody, like, don't go about any of this without seeking God's voice in it, like like every step of the way, from the very beginnings of it till the very end of whenever, God, tells you you're done. Because um
Mm-hmm.
I've been in that position where it, like, God literally gave us the platform and we lost it, um and even to this day I know that, like, that wasn't what he had um called us to do. Obviously, we don't know the future, and we don't know, like, God,
Mm-hmm.
called away from that, but like you can still be called to do something, and then it not come to fruition because of your own pride and your own flesh. And so
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
it just sounds very cliche to say, like, oh yeah, see God, and that we're good, thumbs up, we're done. But it's like, no, like, you have to do it. Otherwise, like, the people that, God could have reached through things that I put my hand to could have been greater, and God has a plan through it all. But it's like, seek him first, seek first his kingdom, so everything else will be added unto you for sure. And that includes the band. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day how cool you look
Mm-hmm.
or how cool you sound. I mean, you got to have God in it first for sure.
Amen. I agree with like a lot of you, like everything that you guys talked about, like really intertwines just so perfectly. And it's just really just holding yourself accountable, making sure that, if you see one of your brothers slipping, like you need to like, yeah, you need to tell them like, hey, like, you messed up, but you need to like help them up and, remind them like why you're doing it in the first place. Like I
Mm-hmm.
love the fact that you guys are accountable to each other and redirecting each other, just staying in the word and like remembering to put God first, because God will humble you. Like if the light, I always say this every time, but it just like I need to get it tattooed on me because it just, if the light in you is greater than the light on you, you will have no problem. But if the light on
Mm-hmm.
you is greater than the light in you, it's gonna go
That's good.
downhill. And like
Yeah.
it just really, like, hearing you guys, like, it inspires me too, especially like starting out in like the music scene again, but like different. It's just it's just a reminder of like it doesn't even matter like how many people or how fast you're supposed to be going. Like, just
Mm-hmm.
take it slow and just take it day by day and just let God do his thing. So thank you guys for sharing that. I
Mm-hmm.
love it. Chill, do you have anything to add before I get into the final parts?
Solid words of wisdom. Thank you so much.
Yes. Um, what are your plans for the future? Are there any tour dates, release dates, and if you guys can plug your social media, because we would love to be able to share that with everybody.
Yeah, our social media is just Mothaltar. Altar is Altar. So Mothaltar, all one word. If you'll find that on Instagram, Facebook. I think we have a TikTok or Twitter. I got to get those from Aaron. We don't go on those too much. We're a bit archaic. And then apart from that, I think we are getting ready to play shows. We desire that very deeply. And I think we're just getting a few things finalized as far as like live rigs are concerned. And whenever we're ready, we're kind of going to lean on our boy Elijah to pull on some plugs and connections to be like, hey, let's run through here or do this or get his wisdom because he's been everywhere. So we're not too worried about where we're going to play. And then hopefully if any of the bands that we kind of connect with would want to play in DFW, we'd love to do that. And then, yeah, so we are still in the middle of our, as we mentioned a few times, our EP is done. It's finished. We're just finalizing, a video and just the release dates and figuring that out. You will hear it this year. It won't be at the end of the year, but we've still got a little bit of time, which is what I would love to hear from you too. So we let you guys hear a track number 3 off of our EP. And we are very curious to hear what both of you think about that without mentioning any names or anything. How did you feel as hearing kind of the song as a sneak peek of what we got coming out this year?
Oh, chill. You go first. You go first.
Honestly, I really, really liked it. It wasn't what I was expecting, right? Because I was kind of listening to what you guys had on Spotify, and I'm like, okay, cool. I see where things are kind of going. But to hear the new, I was like, wow. I just wasn't expecting it. I mean, I'm really excited because like I liked what I heard and I just want to see because it's again, you can tell that you guys are intentional and you can tell how the pieces fit together. So it's like, okay, if this is track 3, what's 1 and 2? Right. And how many are there 8? Are there 9? Like what I want to know, how does this all mesh together? But I'm really excited. I really liked it. It was I don't want to give out too much though, you know what I'm saying? Because like
yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
we just have to keep it mysterious, but I really liked it. Y'all are gonna like it.
Oh man, I agree with that. Like when I was checking you guys out before, a while ago, I was listening. I hope I pronounced this right, but it's dichotomy.
Yeah, dichotomy.
Yeah, that's the one I shared. But even before that, I was listening to the other ones. But man, that one just goes hard, right? And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna listen to this new track that you guys sent me, and I was like, wow, like this is like the sound, like I can see like the sound is still there, but it's like it's just different. Like there's a different kind of groove to it. Like it's just like a new groove, and then it's like I don't want to give it away, but let's just say that y'all are gonna be shocked when you hear it, right? Like you're gonna be shocked just hearing the voices. You're gonna be shocked hearing like the just when I was listening to it, and even like the breakdowns, and even like going into like this, like it was like almost like an ethereal type of like I was just like, man, like I was just in the zone. And like I like before we got on, I was like messaging, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like I felt like it was crazy. Like when I was listening to it, like I was closing my eyes and I could just like feel myself like in this like in his presence, like just like peaceful. Like even though it was like loud, like it was just something different. It was something different.
That's the word. It's just different.
Yeah, it's different. And like I know that when people listen to it, they're gonna be like, wow, like this is like new. Like this is like stuff that's not really coming out right now. Like the typical, like breakdown, chorus, blah blah blah.
Right.
Like this is like something you can tell that you were inspired by another band, but it's like your own. It's like just so different. Like you guys just have to hear it for yourselves, but it is really good, and it makes me really really excited to hear the rest of the tracks, because I can tell that you guys really took your time on it. Like as me and Chill, I think you guys know that we're both musicians, and that's how we met. But it's like listening to it from that standpoint as well, and seeing how much hard work and dedication goes into it. Phenomenal. Like cherry on top. That's all I'm gonna tell
That's
y'all,
awesome
because
to hear.
I don't want to give it away. That's all you're
That's
gonna
awesome
get.
to hear. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you're getting those responses. We on another track we shared it with friends. I shared it with a few friends before it was, I would say, finished, so to speak. And I only asked them one thing. I'm like, I don't want your advice on all this stuff. what do you feel? And they literally ran me through the emotions. It's a longer song, all the emotions they were feeling, and the emotions they were feeling. I'm talking about even like down to heart rates. We were like,
Mm,
okay, they're feeling what we desire because that's this walk. Is we talked about progressive music and how we can
Yeah.
have these tensions and these points of release. I heard a few people who maybe weren't musically adept as maybe like Elijah or Isaiah, but more like myself, like we kind of know some stuff. They would speak to that feeling of attention, and I'm like, that's cool. So I just like hearing that to where if you don't have to give anything away, you talk about what you're feeling, which that is half of music. It's like almost all of it really is what are you feeling. So that's cool. It's cool to hear that you guys got that. Did you guys want to add anything to what we're doing or what we can expect from Mothaltar besides what I said?
Yeah, I think that looking at the EP that's going to get released, I that's probably the most normal song on the album as far as like metal. I think that, or
what?
that's
Oh,
Oh,
probably
that's
safe to say, just to kind of get you guys excited. It's also because I mean, it's something that just goes hand in hand a lot of times with progressive albums. Um, I'm saying album, it's an EP. Sorry, Franco. I know he'll probably say
I know
stuff.
why you
I'm
are.
saying
It's all
album.
good. I know. I get it. I get it. I know
Um,
exactly why you're saying that.
but it's going to be a concept based release, and so that I think we can go ahead and say that. I won't share what the
Hmm.
concept is, but in the progressive world, there are a lot of concept albums out there, and something that has always frustrated me. I hear them say it's a concept release. There's a story behind it, and then they never really share what it is.
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
got that feeling when I was listening to it. I was like, you know what? There's more to this. Like it's very
Mm.
well and very intentionally crafted, but there's pieces missing and you can tell. And I love
Mm.
concept albums. I
Yeah,
do.
so
Like I geek out over them.
you'll be able to experience this release through more than just music, and I'll say that. And
All
that's
right.
something that we're really excited about.
yeah.
Oh, bring
Well,
it.
it's funny what Isaiah said. Like I don't even know how much. Like I'm asking Franco all these questions. Like I'm like, well, we didn't really rehearse anything, but like the song you heard,
Right.
the song you heard, uh, I chose that one for like, hey, this is like what we should kind of like give the people like, their first taste of it. Obviously, in music industry, we call it like this is the first single or however many. Nowadays, it's getting a little bit dumb because people are releasing like 5 singles, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
there's an album. But
Mm-hmm.
like for us,
Right.
we're just like what's a single? And it's like what Isaiah said, like pinpointing it, like because I even approached the guys like, hey, this is what I think like the single should be, but like it sounds like a single, but like what's crazy is like you guys are hearing your feedback on it is cool, but it's exactly what Isaiah said. It is the most single like song because the rest of what you're gonna hear, like nothing really it doesn't fit one thing. Like even with dichotomy, that's why like me picking dichotomy is crazy because like it's not necessarily like to me it hits, it's heavy in its own way in different parts. But like that's because I listen to like crazy stuff. Like I'll be listening to like literally shoegaze to Deftones, and then
Right.
maybe whatever. But like this whole release is gonna have let's like sonically speaking is going to put you through a journey, and that's like what Isaiah's talking about. Like that's the kind of stuff that like Isaiah and Franco, they love the contortions, they love this stuff that's going to like a concept, it's like literally a story. And I love that stuff too. Like I have like backgrounds in that, like even older than contortionists. Like I love stuff like that. But with this, I think with I won't say the name, but what you heard is going to get people interested. But then it's
Right.
also like once you hear the whole thing, you're like, you'll have to listen through it more than once. Like truly,
Yeah.
you'll have to listen through it and be like, because even I'm still doing that. Even I'm still going back and picking out pieces that are like I didn't hear the first time and like the third time and the 10th and the 20th time. So I think everybody will enjoy it. I'm hoping when we finally release a video, because I don't know, I have high standards. I think that it's going to be
Yeah.
pretty legit. I'm going to push for that pretty hard, and hopefully you guys get to enjoy not only a new video, a new EP, but even new music after that we're already starting to work on.
Hmm.
Oh, perfect. Let's go. Like, let's go. I'm so excited. Do you guys have merch? Can anybody like donate to you guys? Like, just your band? Like, anything like that?
That's a good question.
We
Do we have?
currently don't. We currently don't have merch. We have like two designs. We
Ooh,
kind of we kind of put a lot of things. We have designs ready for shirts. We were waiting on a few things. I think the most in particular was what we desired to do with this EP, who we desire to partner with, and how we desire to present ourselves now, kind of going forward. So we currently don't, but um, if you're up to date on our social medias, we will make sure to make pretty aggressive posts when those things come out. Like just with the music, we're going to be very intentional with our shirt designs and making sure that they are up to our standards of what we think cool is, and what we think, is kind of fitting. We like a bunch of different like styles that's just people, interchangeably in the band. So we're going to make sure that the merch does match that, whether it's headwear, attire you can wear, or, et cetera, or even other things. So it's in the works. Some of it's been done, but now we just got to pull the trigger on some product and kind of get our year rolling. You guys are kind of hearing the very first of Mothaltar and kind of what we're planning on doing this year. So you're getting all of it before kind of anyone else does.
Oh, I feel
thank
very
you.
special. I know you do too, Chill. Like it
Hmm.
makes us feel like oh, just special. Like, cause like not everybody can
Mhm.
hear that right now, and like the fact that we're hearing like the beginning parts of it, and then like listening to you guys, and hearing your story, and then just like seeing how you guys are gonna grow even more and more and more, and when you're on other podcasts and stuff like that, and what you're gonna be sharing then, and just seeing the progression, like it's just I just know it's gonna be so great, and God is just He
Thank
has
you.
His hands on you guys. So amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And um, before we get into the gospel, I just wanted to go ahead and plug our social media, and so that way we can totally focus the rest on the gospel, which is like the most important part of this whole podcast for you guys to know Jesus. So
Yes.
um, definitely check us out if you already haven't. We are on all social platforms. Seems like we're on everything at Heavy Worship Nation. We have X, we have Twitter, well, literally everything, Facebook, Instagram. We have group chats. We're very big about community. That's why we're named Heavy Worship Nation in the first place. Um, we want people to get together and to be able to go to the shows together, to be able to have these encounters together, to be able to, lift each other up and help each other keep going through this life, because you cannot go through this life alone, just like the
No.
guys have definitely
Mm-hmm.
talked about. So, again, Heavy Worship Nation on all social platforms. You can listen to our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, literally iHeartRadio, everywhere. We are also updating on our Spotify. We have little playlists. So every
Yeah.
artist that we interview, we're putting a little bit, I guess, a couple of songs for each episode that we have with them, so you can listen to them and have it like we literally have it categorized as like season 2, the Texas edition.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that way everybody could just be like, click, and then listen to all of the
Let it
people that
go.
they heard on the podcast. Um, but yeah, that's all I had to say. I don't think I forgot anything else. Chill, right? I don't think I needed to mention anything else.
No, you're professional. You got it all.
Oh Lord, no. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave it to you guys and to Chill to go ahead and talk about the gospel.
Normally I share the gospel, but did you guys want to do it?
Yeah, and this part, I think I watched one of these. Is this where you do like I guess they call the salvation type of deal, or
Yeah,
how does
normally
this
what I
part?
do, because I mean, our audience, some people, they just like heavy music and they don't really care if it's
Right,
for the Lord or not. So I always want to
right,
give those people the opportunity of hearing the good news if they don't know it. And then if they decide, if the Lord's like really pressing upon them, today's the day. I mean, saying a salvation prayer does not mean that you're saved. All it does is provide an
right.
opportunity for you to publicly declare that you're asking for forgiveness for your sins and that you believe Jesus died for your sins. That's pretty much
Hmm.
it. So if you guys want to do it, you can. I can do it.
Yeah, I think I can go ahead and lead. I do have something that I think is kind of on my heart for the scene, but
Okay.
what I do want to say is if you are listening to this and you don't know who God is at all, and you've never given your life to Christ, the Bible says that if you believe in your heart and you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, then you will be saved. We don't do this because we desire to be part of a fad or something that would give us fulfillment of ourselves. We do this because we believe God is who he says he is. And I promise you, a life with Jesus is so much brighter than a life without him. And the Bible doesn't promise that you won't have tribulations and trials. I'm not saying your life will be easier if you follow God, but I'm saying, in fact, there'll be someone there who loves you constantly and will always desire to be close to you. And it's not this thing where you say you're wretched and you feel bad, like you can't be forgiven of anything. In fact, the Bible even says that God keeps no record of your wrongs. And so I just wanted to pray for you if you've never had a chance to, whoever is listening to this, Father, if there's one person who does not know who you are, I pray that you would reach them right now, you would touch their hearts, and that you would bring them in close to you. It says in Isaiah that you are acquainted with those who are familiar with sorrow and peace, with sorrow and anguish. And I pray that you would be the Prince of Peace in their life. I pray right now in the name of Jesus that you would be close to someone who does not know you. Following God is not hard, it's simple. It's a simple life, constantly turning to him. And I pray that they would feel who you are right now, that your love that is so overwhelming would come encounter them wherever they would be. And the second part of this that I've been feeling today is even for those in the scene who desire to be encouraged or who want to be close to him or have drifted away. I was sharing this with my band earlier this week, but going back to Job chapter 14, where it talks about, for there is hope for a tree when it is cut down, that it will sprout again, and its shoots will not fail. Though its roots grow old in the ground, and its stump dies in dry soil, at the scent of fresh water, it will flourish again. And I pray that for you, whoever may be a believer who is backslidden or feeling alone or isolated, that is a promise of God, is everlasting water. We need more people on this journey. We just don't want it to be about us, to be about another band, to only be about for today. It's always been about God. That's what all of us point towards. And so I pray, Father, that at the scent of fresh water, those who have been diminished, discouraged, and depressed would begin to flourish again in your word and who you've called them to be. And I pray for your favor and love to come over them. Jesus, I pray that your spirit would come and encounter them. Yeah, and I even pray there'd be good rest this week for whoever would be listening to this, even if this is the part that we chop up and put in our social medias. Father, that good rest would come in the name of Jesus. And I pray these things. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And for those of you who accepted that accepted that presence of the Lord in your heart, accepted the Holy Spirit, accepted that Jesus died for your sins, we just want to welcome you into the family of God. You're not alone anymore. By all means, follow us on social media. We have the group chats. We want to pray for you. We just want to send you memes and see how you're doing and live this crazy life together. That's what we want.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, you guys, again, for taking time out of your schedules to be able to meet with me and Chill, and to be able to share the gospel, and to be able to share your testimonies. And I know, I feel it in my bones that people will resonate with all of you and what all of you have told us tonight. And again, you guys, go stream their music right now. I'm assuming you guys are on all social, like as far as like streaming platforms, under Mothaltar. And we will definitely, if you don't get the chance to, we will link all of their information down in the description below. But yes, thank you so much for you guys just being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you guys so much for having us on.
Of course. Without further ado, thank you guys for listening. Until we meet again, much love. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.